Welcome to our semester value exam sharing session in this afternoon. The sharing session is about to begin. Please use the virtual background and mute the audio. The Honorable Mr. Naviantoro and Bu Indri, distinguished dear friends and colleagues. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, and with the peace from the God and up to be open us. In this afternoon, it gives us immense pleasure to welcome you to our TVD sharing session today, July 29, through online media meeting. First of all, let's praise and thanks God for giving us guidance, happiness, healthiness, and His mercy so we can attend and participate in this event. Before we continue to main session, let's take a solemn moment and pray together. Let the prayer begin. Thank you. Okay. We hope I'll begin with God and the pandemic that is affecting us despair very soon. Honorable distinguished friends and colleagues, my name is Irastewati. You can call me Racha. And behalf of the committee, I will be your master of ceremony today. Today, we will discussing about residential property market in midst of COVID-19. To start our session today, we humbly ask Mr. Walan. He is currently working for Ministry of Finance and State Valuer, PFPP Madhya, as the Director of Valuation, to deliver his opening speech to remind us regarding the essence of this event. Therefore, with all due respect, please welcome Mr. Warlan.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Ira. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? I hope all our participants in this forum are well, and don't forget to be happy because happiness is expensive today. Thank you very much to MC Mbak Ira, who has given me time to speak in this forum. And also, thank you very much to speaker today, Mbak Rini Rosfitasari from KPKNL Tarakan, who has given your time to sharing in this forum. As usual, every Friday afternoon, we join on TVD program. And this afternoon's topic, we will talk about residential property market in the midst of COVID-19. But before we listen to the presentation from Mbak Rini, I have any question for all participants. Okay, are you ready? The first question to all participants, who doesn't have a house? Can you raise hand, please? Who doesn't have a house in this forum, all our participants? Wow. Okay.
In Jakarta or anywhere?
Oh, Mbak Rini, you don't have a house. I think you should have saved money, save your money to buy a house. Okay. Okay. And maybe opposite to the first question, the second question is, who have a house? Who have a house? Can you raise hand? Oh.
Who has already a house in Jakarta or
Yeah.
I don't have.
In Jakarta or in
I
your.
don't have any in Jakarta. I'm so sorry.
Okay. In Jakarta maybe you don't have, but in another place you have a lot of house. Yeah, and why I ask like that, and I want to know how many of participants have a lot of house. Yeah, we are known that one of the basic human need is to have a house, and that need is always growing. A small family needs a small house, and a big family needs a big house, right? But the ability to buy the house is influenced by the property market. And we all know that the property market is influenced by supply and demand, right? Property supply will be influenced by several factors, such as raw material price, number of sellers, technology, and government regulation. On the other hand, property demand is influenced by the number of buyers, the income of buyer, and the price of substitute property, right? For some people, with high income, maybe in this participant have a lot of a house, maybe, yeah. Having a house is not just a basic need, but they will buy a house to invest, I think. Okay. However, at the beginning of 1990, there was a COVID-19 pandemic. And of course, this will affect to the property market, especially residential properties. And this afternoon, Mbak Rini will present the impact of COVID-19 on the residential property market. I hope that all participants can take advantage of this opportunity to increase your knowledge and experience in the field of valuation, especially related to the residential property market. Please sit comfortable and prepare question to Mbak Rini. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Walan, for delivering such an inspirational and powerful opening speech. We hope, as Mr. Walan mentioned earlier, that today's session will give useful insight, fruitful discussion, increase our ability in English, and contribute more to valuation, especially regarding what is residential property market in the COVID-19. Okay, carrying on the next part, without further ado, allow me introduce our moderator today. He will accompany us through the whole event up until question and answer session afterwards. Palangkaraya, Kalimantan was his first deployment after graduated from STAN in 2010. Commit in this DGCM's Jakarta's headquarters become his way to get chance for studying in Faculty Economic and Business Universities of Indonesia. He finished his study just several months before Corona-19, which was spread out in Indonesia. He has been working 7 years in Directorate of Valuation with experience 3 different director leadership. Currently working as a staff of administration unit in the same directorate. I'm sure you already know who he is. So please give a warm welcome to our moderator, Mr. Muhammad Firman Ardi Putra. Welcome, Miss Firman, Mr. Firman.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Iracan as MC and Mr. Warlan as opening speech, or that is giving us several words. Everyone, my sound is clear, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
I
okay.
think it's
Okay.
clearly.
Yeah, clearly.
Carrying on the next part, without further ado, I will accompany you through the whole event presentation until question and answer session afterwards. Ladies and gentlemen, our speaker today is Mrs. Rini Rosfitasari, and we might call her Mrs. Rini. She is one of the best valuer in KPKNL Tarakan. She has been working in there since early 2019 until now. And then with the academic background of bachelor degree of management, it's a good decision inviting her as a speaker to share about residential property market in the midst of COVID-19 in this forum. That's about how the Indonesia economic growth affected by COVID-19, residential property market specifically. And then we discuss about how our government regulate this situation and so on. But before the presentation starts, let me tell you how the presentation will go. First, Mrs. Rini will be invited to present the material. After that, there will be a question and answer session followed by a conclusion. All of the participants may ask directly with raised hand or write your question on that column in this Zoom meeting. Now, allow me to welcome the speaker to make his presentation. Mrs. Rini, please welcome to explain the material. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pak Firman. How about the slide? If come from me or Pak Firman ya?
Maybe there is Mbak Baby to share the material. Mbak Baby, can you help us? Or just for me, maybe. Here's the presentation.
Okay, can we start now ya Pak Firman?
Yes, please go, Mrs. Rini. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Firman. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. As I mentioned before, Pak Warlan, Pak Warlan Panavi ya. Before we start, first of all, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to fill this session that I never thought I would be asked to fill this session. Because as far as I know, the speakers in each session are masters in their respective fields. And actually, I don't have much experience. Yeah, not that much, but it is also an honor for me. And I would say to disclaimer, the topic that I will share is based on the phenomenon of the residential property market when I wrote the article in 2021. And my article that I wrote about the property market maybe has been changed than today condition. If everyone here, no, still first slide, please. If everyone here remember, the outlook of property market has been presented a year ago in the maybe in the carnival session. Yeah, in the carnival session. Specifically, I will discuss about the residential property market. So the background why I wrote the article. in the middle of the last year, when we did an evaluation in several locations in our work area, we saw the long queues at several banks close to the location of the valuation object. We were curious about the long queues, and we found that there was subsidies for the residential property that I think it showed the demand of the residential property. There are still crowded despite of the pandemic. Next slide, please, Pak Firman. We agree that the pandemic is still not over. Almost all economic sector in our country have been affected, as I mentioned, Pak Warlan before, by the pandemic, including the property sector. If we look back, the pandemic first entered our country in March 2020, with all the uncertainty about the whole measurement and global economic condition. And I think our country has experienced a significant slowdown in economic growth. That graph shows the condition of the growth of Indonesian economic in maybe range for years 2020 until present, and I think the first quarter in 2022. And with all government regulation in order to prevent the spread of the virus, our mobility is very limited, and it's also valuation activities got some adjustment, maybe that affect to survey. And based on BPS data, in the first quarter of 2022, Indonesia's economic growth increased by 5.01% compared to previous year, or we used to call year-on-year comparison. But however, Q to Q, or the economic growth in Q1 of 2022 compared to the previous quarter, which the fourth quarter of 2021, there is decrease by 0.96%. Based on the graph 2, we can also see that decline also occurred, in the second, third, and fourth quarter in 2020, respectively, start the pandemic entered our country, and even continue in the first quarter of 2021. Next slide, please. And from the several sources and statement of the Deputy Ministry of Finance, the construction and the real estate sector are the sectors that have the highest multiplier effect. Therefore, this sector has important role in effort to recovery the national economy. And everyone here can see the graph that we have seen. It can be seen that the movement of the index or IHPR growth is running almost the same as economic growth. Based on the graph, we can also see the sequential decline in the index growth in the second, third, and fourth quarters of 2020 which continue in the first quarter of 2021. And I think this is in line with the development of our country economic growth. Talking about the construction and real estate sector that I mentioned before, the fact in order to support economic recovery, the government has issued various to encourage the construction and real estate sectors. Next slide, please, Pak. Based on my research, these are regulations that I have found relate to the topic. I will be honored if everyone here can give me insight about further regulation or information to the topic that I haven't mentioned at this peak or I haven't mentioned before. This regulation regulate tax facilities and provide subsidies to developer residential, I mean, which ultimately have an impact on supply and demand and residential property market. And my opinion with this regulation with exciting targets and which can encourage purchasing power in every house type market and with fairly positive growth in residential market. Sorry. Next slide, Pak Firman. As information that I got from Central Bank of Indonesia, the house is divided into 3 types, namely small type house, medium type house, and large type house. The house including the small type in house with building area up to 36 meter square, and medium have large building area over the 36 meter square until 70 meter square, and the big house over the 70 meter square. Turn the next chart of IHPR of the index of the price of residential for the small type house. The Q to Q comparison index doesn't show any significant growth, but however, if we look the year-on-year comparison on each quarter during the first year of pandemic, the index show a downward trend. Yeah, and for the medium type, the growth of the house price index, the growth of the Q to Q and year to year for the medium type is not significant until the last quarter 2021, but extremely increases in the first quarter of the 2022. And if we take a look of the large type of the house price index, we can also see the significant growth until the last quarter of the 2021, and it's similar to the medium type of house. The large type of house price index also show noticeable upward movement in the first quarter of 2022. Next slide. And according to the chart, show the growth of the house sales. And as I mentioned at the first, the growth of the house sales, same as the growth of the economic our nation. But the gray line here that show specifically movement of the large type of house. Next slide, Pak. And here's behind the sales growth. And the power line mentioned a variable of behind the sales growth for, and there is a increase price of building material, permission, and mortgage interest rate and tax. Maybe this topic has been explained by Mbak Gita from KPKNL Bandar Lampung, and that's why maybe I just few explain it about the financing source. And next slide, Pak Firman. But the growth of the price index and sales of residential property are inseparable from the source financing, with the proportion of the property financing or originating from mortgage. It shows that the interest rate is very influential of the growth of the price index and sales. Yeah. Next slide, Pak Firman. Yeah. If you're aware of the recent issue, several media have reported, and I don't know surat terbuka in English, but open letter addressed to our Ministry of Finance, Busri, where the news, the point is how millennials can buy a house amidst the continuous increase in house prices. And Busri said that revealed that it would be increasingly difficult for Indonesians to own house amid the trend of the rising central bank interest rates. In line with rising inflation, central bank benchmark interest rates in several countries also rose. This will also have an impact on soaring lending rates in the housing sector. This is the graph show that BI, Central Bank of Indonesia, maintain the 7-day reverse repo rate, or we used to call BI 7 DRR is still perched at the level 3.5% to maintain economic growth. And yeah, maybe that's all my presentation. And if I conclude with the several regulations that released by government, we all know that the regulation have positive impact for the house sales and price index. It showed that residential property market is still attractive for potential buyer or maybe investor. But overall, it has been increasing growth of the IHPR, or the price index, the quarter or on 2022, but Central Bank of Indonesia have a prediction there is decreasing in Q2 2022. As the issue, and people we have to aware for having investation in the real estate. And maybe this issue make us aware to or more sensitive in analyzing the property market. And maybe as a failure with the existing regulation, this can be considered in analyzing market condition and as material for calculating transaction adjustment, especially in the term of financing. Yeah, that's all my presentation. Sorry if I disappoint you about the short presentation. That this is based on my article that I wrote in the last year, and it's just come to my phenomena that I got in the location of the location of the object valuation. And I hope get more insight for the variable, the others variable have the impact to residential property market. And I have to give back the session for the Pak Firman.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Rini, for giving us an informative and interesting presentation. That's a great presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to the next session, which is a discussion or time for the question and answer session. I would like to have 3 questions maybe from the participants. Please don't be shy or hesitate to ask. Okay, if there will be a question from you, please raise your hand and mention your name before giving your opinion, question or answer. Any question maybe? Oh, Mr. Darmawan, for the first question. Mr. Darmawan.
Hey, Mas Firman, how are you?
Thank you, Mr. Darmawan.
Yeah, hi, Mbak Rini. I'm Darmawan from
Good
the
afternoon.
Milan. Good afternoon. It's already, oh yeah, it's still afternoon there in Tarakan, yeah. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much. Your presentation was very great, and particularly your presentation materials. I like the picture. I like the figures, and you mentioned so many important things in your presentation. Oh, so sorry. I have to. Off cam now. I'm not at home and still working with some others stuff here because Mas Firman asked me to finish everything today. So yeah, it's a bit lot of thing here. Yeah. Again, I'm really hoping that this presentation can inspire many of us to understand that the markets of property exists and is important as a part of economics, global economics, not only Indonesian economics. Then back to your presentation, you conclude that it is interesting. Sorry, what I see. So, so you conclude that if I'm not mistaken, you conclude that actually, even though there were some declining of housing demand due to the COVID, but actually overall we can see that the growth of demand of was that the growth of demand that happened in the property market is relatively quite high. I know that the graph show that it's all negative in the end of 21st and the first of 22, isn't it? It look like from slide 5, for example, or the 0.06 for residential property price index. Also for is an all type, I think, the small one, middle one, and the big one. But again, what I feel, Mark, even though those graphs show that everything are impacted with this COVID, and you see that the interest rate going down and everything's going down. Actually, my question is it because the intervention of the government to stimulate the economy from construction and property sector, or is that a normal situation that is going on? You get what I mean? You know, like when you said that interest rates going down, and then we see that this what is that? Yeah, interest rate going down, then the price going down, yeah, till end of the first quarter of 2022. So is that part of government intervention? So it's resulted like that, or it is this normal situation here in Indonesia? You get what I mean? Is there any government intervention impact to that situation? That's what I mean. Because what I feel, the housing price is still high actually, and then and the economic power of people to buy a house is still far from the what we call it affordability. That's what we feel. So could you please explain about that? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pak Darmawan. Correct me if I'm wrong. The point of is it the true of the all regulation have impact to the price of the residential market, right?
Yes. Is there any impact of, I mean, because your presentation shows so many graphs and so many indicators of property markets, but on the other hand, we know that government also introduced so many policy in terms of housing and property and construction sector. So my question is there any impact of those policies on with this graph that you present before, or is that just a normal market condition? What I mean?
Okay, I try to answer your question, Pak. In my opinion, the regulation is covered about the given the subsidies on the and the facilities of the tax, and it can be to encourage of the demand of the property, but as price index we can show we can show the graph as the index of the price is still it's still high, and the line chart is the show for the growth of the price index. It doesn't mean I think it doesn't mean the price happened the decreasing, but the show more for the growth of the price index to comparison of the year to year and quarter to quarter. And I think the regulation is just to encourage for the demand of the residential market. That's all. Maybe everyone here can give more insight for my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you for the answer, Mrs. Rini. Maybe everyone, another question. Please raise your hand. Immediately. If there is no question, maybe I'm the next for giving you a question. As you present before, there is a graph that show the decrease of buying power of millennials to buy a house. But in other business analysis that I have read, there is a concept that called or what is in English with hak kepemilikan or ownership. Maybe you had heard about that. I think the decrease of the graphs not only reflect about the market, but also that millennials has in mind that is not important to have a house or ownership like we have done today, but transportation, maybe like we are usually use ojek, seldom that we think to buy a car. Maybe the same concept, but the house. Maybe in the next decade or the near future, the millennials don't think about how important but having a house, but they are maybe think about if I can rent apartment, why I have to buy a house? I can invest the amount of money to another investment. Can you share about your opinion about that?
Okay, in my opinion, as
Yes.
Pak Warren mentioned at the first session, that having a house is the best human needed, and maybe you can papan pangan sandang, yeah. And the house is the basically human needed that I think maybe with the increasing of the price of the house, but we still need the house for the needed. And if compare to the but as far as I know, the IHPR by the central bank based on survey on the 18 cities, the big cities in Indonesia, the even city that where I live now, not include in the price index, that maybe you can choose the best location, or maybe you can choose the location of the house. And what is the English of pinggiran? Maybe maybe you shouldn't buy a house in the center city. You can buy house in other city, maybe not include in this best survey in the index price. Maybe that's all, Pak Firman.
Or maybe we can buy a house in near the center of city. Here, maybe we can call it a satellite area.
Okay.
Like if we near Jakarta, there are several area like Depok, Bekasi, or Bogor. That's called satellite area.
We call it suburban city.
Oh, suburban.
Suburban.
Thank you for
Okay,
the correction.
suburban. Thank you, Bu
Lydia.
Lydia.
Sorry, just give an insight about the housing price. So unlike in the, so I would like to say that housing price or property price is actually a strict regulated price or strict regulated industry, housing and construction. But it's not happened here. As you can see, the housing price here in Indonesia is look like more or tend to a free market sector. So I mean, like the supply and demand meets in the market. I'm not saying without, but it's not really enough strict regulation on that kind of intervention from the government to the price itself. Most of intervention here in Indonesia is more to, I mean, like what I call indirect intervention. That's the thing. That's the thing. Despite the high demand here, despite the very high demand here, but actually, I'm seeing that housing price here in Indonesia is look like more defined by. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure. Sorry, I make some correction that it was not free market sector, but it looked like more oligopoly sector. So some, you can see that developer is more power to define the market itself and drive the markets high as they want. You can see that in many areas here. So unlike in some countries that's very rigid in terms of development, so here in Indonesia it's not really rigid in development and or developing a housing complex, for example. You can see that developer can build many houses or many complex in almost every corner of the city or suburbs. There is no, what I mean, like, it's no, we feel that there is no restriction, enough restriction for, let's say, to maintain the green area, to maintain open area. Even you might see it's very, what do you call it? Some developer really disturbing the water circle or the river circle like that. It's happened here. So the capital power is really strong here in Indonesia. So again, housing price is more likely defined by them. It's not by the demand itself, actually. Despite the demand here is very high. That's what I'm thinking about the price, housing price here in Indonesia. Is there any comment? Please welcome. I think Mas Waran will give a comment there.
Mr. Warren, can you give some idea as an addition from Mr. Warlan? Mr. Warlan, Mr. Wawan.
I'm sorry, I'm not focused about what Mas or Pas Darmawan tadi say. I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Mr. Wawan, can you shorten the conclusion or the words about your idea?
Thank you, Mas Firman.
Yes, I think I can. I had to to absorb your words. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry for my bad thinking. Yeah. So what I want to say is, when we talk about housing price here in Indonesia, the root, may I say, the root cause of those very high housing price here in Indonesia is because the market on the housing market is look like or tend to or similar to oligopoly markets. We see that, we know monopoly, oligopoly, or opposite market competition like that. Theoretically, housing industry or construction industry is very restricted sector. So the government has really long list restriction. What I meant say restriction. You don't go to riverbank. You don't go to villages. You don't go to like that. When we talk about developer want to build a house, so many restrictions there. You cannot cut trees. You cannot cut the river. You cannot like that. So many things. It's long list restriction actually to build a house, but that's make this that's right. This make things this industry or sector is really restricted. It's really difficult for for developer just build anything and define the price as they can, including the selling price of housing, then how much price there should be set like that. It's really complex things to do or to build or to be developers. That should be. But in fact here, even you have only like 100 million or 1 billion rupiah, and then you can build you can be a developer. You can do anything with your land. You can build any kind of house that you want and sell based on your opinion as developer. Try to mark up, try to define that based on what do you call it, gimmick, this actually one semester lesson gimmick or something like that. So despite the demand of Indonesian housing sector is really high, but this kind of very limited restriction or regulation from the government in this sector is creates the power or shift the power from the market to only the supplier or developer. You get what I mean? So when we talk about the price, is more likely is defined by the developer, not the market itself. Sometimes you can imagine that, is that really house here in Depok, for example, with only 60 meter square land and maybe only 90 meter square buildings or house is worth 1.2 billion rupiah. Is that real, the price? You know what I mean? But why people buy that? Maybe they have no options. Maybe they have no option. So that's just the thing. So it's like more cartel or oligopoly market like that. We will contact later. We can talk later. Mas Firman. That's my
Okay, thank
thought.
you, Mr. Wawan. If I highlight your words, maybe I can give some addition or conclusion. Correct me if I am wrong, Mr. Wawan. So based on your opinion, that the housing market are similar to oligopoly, that is only some developer, whether there are huge demand like that, Mr. Wawan. And then the price isn't real because the price is determined by the developer. So the government must be intervene the situation. Isn't right, Mr. Wawan? Like that.
Yeah, Mas Firman. But we should hear from Mbak Rini actually.
Oh yeah, I'm so
The speaker is
sorry.
Mbak Rini. It's not me, Mas Firman. It's not my stage. This
The
my
final, yes,
that
yes,
was my thought, but
yes.
but the stage is Mbak Rini actually. So please, Mbak
Uh,
Rini, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Rini. I just guessing what Mr. Wawan say, and the final answer is from Mrs. Rini. I'm so sorry, Mr. Wawan and Mrs. Rini. Please, Mrs. Rini, maybe you can add the answer.
I think Mbak Lydia ready to answer,
Okay.
give some opinion there.
No, I don't have an opinion because your opinion is too long. Get lost in the middle. But actually, there is a quite truthness on your opinion, but also there is some of that opinion I can oppose to, because we cannot say just that the market price of housing depends on housing developer, major housing developer, because generally in Indonesia, market price for housing is completely closed market. We don't have any data that exactly have, because in Indonesia, they don't buy house by agency. Yeah, if I'm not wrong, there is a lot of transaction is direct transaction, I believe, including from the developer, also direct transaction. If I'm not saying that true, but the prices is based on, if we say in Jakarta or in Jabodetabek, based on location. Even though the location is far away, like Miss Rini said, the suburban area like Depok, Tangerang, mana lagi Citayam, atau like my place in Cibubur ataupun Putri area, the prices is comparable with the BSD, same price, same price. So we call it that oligopoly market. I don't think so. sometimes in the middle of the city, like in BSD or near in Bintaro or someplace in Meruya or someplace in somewhere in Jabodetabek, we might have find a housing complex that not on the market price like we used to see in the advertising. So the problem maybe is not because oligopoly market, Mr. Mawan, in my opinion, but the prices is closed market. The data transaction is not open like we have, not like they have in the United States or our neighboring country, because they using agency. Maybe that's opinion.
Okay, everyone, any other question or discussion?
Mas Firman.
Yes, please, Mr. Warna.
Okay. Okay, I'm agree with Mas Wawan opinion. I think this is a fact that is happening right now. The seller is our developer is more dominant in shaping the price, right? Actually, during the pandemic, even though purchasing power decrease, on the other hand, the seller or developer will not lower property price, right? I think this is one of the reason the number of property sales decreased during the pandemic. The seller or developer prefer to hold the property. One thing that is interesting in case like this is related to the valuation. I have one question to Mbak Rini. Mbak Rini is a valuer, right? Mbak
Yes,
Rini?
sir. Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
okay. How does this condition impact on the valuation, which in conducted by the valuer? Maybe you can give opinion and impact maybe the situation to the valuation.
Okay, thank you, Pak Warna. In my opinion, this condition may be impact for we do the calculating for the transactional adjustment. There is a term, maybe term, wait. Maybe term of financing in the transaction and the transactional adjustment. And for the give me more insight about do the analysis market or for the make a report and do and make sure to the make sure to the value. I think that's all. But
Okay, thank you, Mbak Rini.
Okay, Mrs. Bayu, he's raised his hand. So Mr. Bayu,
Thank you
what is
for
your
the
question?
opportunity, Mr. Firman.
Sorry, your sound is so small.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Firman.
Okay, go
Okay.
on.
Good evening, Miss Rini.
good evening,
May I
Pak.
ask something about property analysis to you. If we know in the world there is 3 crisis era from the 1998 and 2008 and 2020, and maybe there are some effect from that 3 era of crisis. Maybe you can share about your opinion or your statement about 3 crisis, the impact to the analysis of market of the property. Maybe that's my question. Thank you, Mr. Firman and Ms. Rini.
Thank you, Pak Bayu. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I not got the point, is the comparison for the crisis in 1888, or what? Can you repeat, please, for the question? But the connection, my connection is unstable. Can you repeat, Pak? I'm so sorry, if you don't mind. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, Ms. Rini. I will repeat my question. First of all, maybe we know in the world there is three crisis era: 1998, 2008, and 2020. For that three era give impact to property. Maybe you can what is your opinion about the impact of property analysis or property market in that three crisis of era? Maybe like that, Miss Rini. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Bayu. To be honest, I don't do the analysis of because of a crisis, but maybe everyone here can answer about the Pak Bayu question, because I don't do analysis for crisis. I'm so sorry, Pak Bayu, but I didn't do analysis for the crisis effect for the residential property. I'm so sorry for Pak Bayu, Pak. But anyone here have you or can you give me advice or insight by the Pak Bayu questions?
Anyone have the idea or suggestion about what Mr. Bayu asked?
Maybe give me permission to share something. Maybe that can be discussion about the topic three eras. Okay, Mr. Firman.
Yes, please share what your graph or material, Mr.
So there is three kind of era crisis that happened in 1998, 2008, and 2020. The table of the presentation is different and present about crisis starts and the impacts crisis and the growth of economic inflation and the nominal, of course, and the BI rate and maybe the property sector condition, maybe like in the 1998 the property sector is start new, or in the flow of property is mean grow, and the 2008 this property sector is grow fast and in the start of boom in the flow of property, and the third is the property sector is bust. Maybe this is the summary of the three era of crisis. Maybe if maybe like that, Mr. Firman. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Bayu. Any question again, or Mrs. Rini can give us insight again, or enough?
This, you know.
That is enough. Ladies and gentlemen, finally we came to the end of this group discussion. Or for the last chance, I give you some question again. If there is no question again, maybe we can close the discussion. Okay, 3, 2, 1. No, okay. Before closing the discussion, I want to draw conclusion from what speaker said. The conclusion of presentation today, first, Corona-19 pandemic has negative impact to economic growth that is reflected from residential property price index. And then the second, government can interfere the condition of our economic by give the several regulation where it can increase our purchasing power by lowering or give tax facilities so we can buy a house more easy. And then residential property price index based from the graph is different from small, medium, and big house, but all has some increasing index. And then we have discussion about buying the house as basic needs. So how low or how high the price of house there will be demand on there. And then I have highlighted from what Mr. Wawan we are discussed about that the housing market similar to oligopoly market, whether government can interfere on that, and then the price isn't real. That is maybe a debatable discussion. Maybe that is a conclusion from me. I would like to thank to the speaker for their informative and interesting presentation, and all the participants for their very active participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Firman, for directing such a valuable discussion. Please give your last round of applause for our speaker and moderator. And thus, the discussion regarding the residential property market in midst of COVID-19 has ended. Team will agree it was insightful and inspirational. Dear friends and colleagues, as the question and answer session comes to an end, to marks the end our discussion and sharing session today. It's surely a select moment for us to be here that we can enrich our knowledge relates to residential property market in the midst of COVID-19. But before we call a date and close our session today, I would like to invite Mr. Pak Nafiantoro or Bu Indiasari deliver his closing remarks. Mr. Pak Nafiantoro or Bu Indiasari, is there something you want to say? No, thanks. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the comrades and colleagues behind the screen, I would like to thank the speaker, Ms. Rini, and moderator, Mr. Firman, Mr. Warlan, for giving the speech, and all participants who have been very enthusiastic through the whole event. And just to remind you, please confirm your attendance today by clicking the link provided with the comment on the chat. Honorable friends and colleagues, please bear with us the whole event for today. We do apologize for any mistakes and error committed during the session. We are looking forward to seeing you in the next future. Thank you for joining. Stay safe, stay healthy, have a great weekend. I am Iristiwati. Wabillahi taufiq walhidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mbak.
Thank you.
Kira,
Thank you, Miss.
Mas Firman.